All right. Hopefully, second attempt is going to be. Well, this is perfect, isn't it, for the inner critics? Because I know that am I the most tech savvy person? No, I'm not. And at the same time, I pressed the wrong button, started doing the microphone on my phone, which I know is not a great thing. So this is in some ways practicing our critics in action, because as it happens, the times that we need to practice and recycle our difficult thoughts is exactly in the moment when things are a little bit challenging. It's not so much when we are having an easy time thinking that we have figured everything out. The critics come up in the moments of our growth. So thank you so much for joining. If you are watching on replay, apologies if you tried to join live before and then I kind of popped in and then I dropped out. Welcome. So I guess couple of things that I wanted to mention today. So the reason I really decided to dedicate this week in particular to revisiting the critics is because the critics is something that I work with quite a lot with my clients, and I love to support everybody really who I come across, because it's something that we probably see in life. We meet people who are feeling critical of themselves, and normally it becomes a bit of a problem because it might not be necessarily helping you to move forward. If you know a little bit of my work, of my content, for me, critics, just like anything else, anything that has a bit of a judgment or negative tag or negative pull, is a messenger. So a couple of things that the critics are reminding us of, and reminding myself of, is whenever our energy starts to drop, this is when the critics pop up. Or maybe it could be something that sometimes something requires a bit more effort from ourselves than our ability to give ourselves that sound, not judgment, but sound awareness of where we are at. So in some ways, I do look at the critics as messengers that our energy is dropping, and it's always important for us to boost ourselves up, because if we want to grow anything, whether it's your confidence, whether it's your kindness, you need to have energy for that, because just like anything else, emotion is an energy in motion, and effort requires energy. So everything requires energy, and it's important for us to, of course, start from the basis of how can I support myself on a day-to-day basis. But today in particular, I want to look at recycling, repurposing some of the common critical thoughts that might be popping in our heads. And thank you to a couple of you that have shared some of them. I'm not going to be naming names, just so we keep it nice and confidential, but I wonder if some of you might recognize them. And the process that I would like you to consider, for simplicity wise, is going on like this. If you've seen my post this morning about the in a superhero lab, so essentially the pointing towards that the critics are just lacking some of the skills. So the critics are pointing towards needing a little bit of more presence, giving ourselves that presence, as well as learning to give ourselves kindness. And one of the reasons I break it down this way, so then we can see a clear path, because sometimes we feel like, well, my critic is too strong, and it's interesting how we dissociate from them. But if we start looking at it, all right, my critic wants to learn certain skills. My critic might be missing awareness or presence. And you can think about an example of, say, being there for somebody when they are going for a tough time. Because the first thing is to be there, to be present. We don't necessarily have all the tools and all abilities to change anything in the moment. And then the second step would be to learn something different, which would be to add the kindness. And the way I look at it is then when we have our self-critic, that is probably lacking a little bit of that energy and awareness first. So when we are aware, the critic is able to become an observer. Just imagine somebody just watching you do something without commenting, without saying anything. They're just there. And then one step forward, if they say an encouragement word, then they become a cheerleader. And I love to look at the idea of cheerleader is when we need them the most. So the cheerleaders, we are not necessarily needing the cheerleaders just to celebrate the win. We need the cheerleaders when potentially we are struggling with something, for somebody to say, hey, you got it. Or imagine yourself cheering for somebody. Like if it's a competition, it's different to celebrating. We are cheering when we want people to win. And this is an idea that I wanted to discuss with you today. So looking at the critic is, what if the critic just telling me that they need some more skills? They need to learn to be more observant, and they need to learn to be more kind. So then we have that pathway of critic, observer, cheerleader. All right, I'm gonna keep it quite short today. So let's see. The first one that I really love, and it comes across a lot, to be honest, when I have conversations with women, is I am too empathetic. And it's interesting how the word empathetic has become a bit of a downfall, right? Because empathy on its own is a great quality to have. We want to be able to resonate and feel the energy in the room. However, whenever the word too comes in there, it normally says, well, I'm a bit sensitive, and when I am too empathetic, it means that it drains me. So here's something that I would like us to consider first. So taking a step back, and if we want to be an observer in this situation, and I'll look at it this way. So see, the critic has spoken, I am too empathetic. First thing I would say, thank you so much, thank you for raising this. And the observer would say, well, I notice and feel things differently. I notice the energy in the room. For me, it's information. So if we put away any negative emotion attached to it, we can say, well, I notice the things quite deeply. It's an information. It's an information that I can use skillfully to relate to people, to support people. So then the next step from the observer towards the cheerleader would be to add a bit of kindness and appreciation for these abilities. Because if we add a bit of kindness and gratitude towards them, we can say, well, my empathy, that is actually my superpower. Because it can tell me exactly what's going on in the room, what the person might need, where they are at. I am able to be on the same level as they are. I'm able to be there for them to support. Now, once again, in order for us to move between observer towards the cheerleader, what is needed? We need energy, because just like imagine you're walking, if you're too tired to walk, you won't be, it becomes really hard to move all the way from the critic towards the cheerleader. So step number one, if I am getting critical, if it starts to feel like it's too much, if I'm being hard on myself, I need to fill my cup. So we're going back towards the nurturing ourselves and growing our energy levels. And this is also practicing and observing some ways. And then from that space, when I feel a bit more energized, when I can starting to clearly see that this is a skill. I notice things. I am able to sense what the people are feeling. So then we are moving that one extra step. Cheerleader, my empathy is superpower. I might drop down just as a quick summary of this for you to see the reframing, but reframing also with that middle of the observer in between, because I put them down together as a very short bullet points for you to see it, and then I would love to see your commentary on that. Now the second one that also is getting mentioned a lot by women that I work with and in my life when I speak to people, I am too lazy. I wonder if anyone has ever said that to themselves. I am too lazy. I said that definitely. Now, once again, energy first, capacity first. If I'm getting critical on myself, I am declining on my energy. If I feel like anything is an effort, because quite often I'm lazy means my energy is low. I do not have the capacity to do things. Again, capacity is low. So everything is pointing towards I am low on my energy levels. So step number one, we want to be able to replenish ourselves, and that's your observing there. You can also put into the observer point, I notice my body. I respect my body. And then the cheerleader step would be, I'm not lazy, I am depleted. And what I actually need is some recharging. It's like one of the questions I often ask my clients, what is the difference between lazy and tired? And a tired normally, so the lazy would normally be same thing, but you haven't done something and you feel bad about it. But if you pushed through it, then it becomes just tired. But how is that beneficial towards you? Because pushing through is necessary sometimes, but what do? Whenever we make an agreement with ourselves to keep going, we need to come back to our promise to recharge. So once again, the critic says, I'm too lazy. The observer says, well, I notice my energy is low. And then the cheerleader would say, I'm just depleted, I need to recharge. And that's going to boost my motivation. And then number 3, another one that I quite like is, why can't I just get it by now? Why can't I just get it by now? When we're getting impatient, critical, comparing ourselves. Why is my timeline is not quite what I wanted that to be? So again, number 1, we notice whenever there is a gap, the kindness can't quite catch up. Let's make sure that your energy levels are there. So first, step back, observer. I notice I'm being hard on myself. I'm still in the process of learning. And then if we add just a little bit more kindness, then it becomes, I'm still learning. And growth isn't linear, it's different for everybody. And most importantly, a cheerleader stage also says to us, well, what can I do? What can I do to support myself? So why can't I just get it by now? We are critical of ourselves, comparing. Observer, I notice something hard in myself. And the cheerleader says, I'm still learning. Growth isn't linear. I wonder how it lands for you. So both the observer and the cheerleader stage, they have a capacity to offer some solution, or at least looking into solution. What can I do? What can I do to boost myself further? What can I do to help myself? The critic does not have that ability. Why? Because it's limited. It's limited in skills, but it's most importantly, it's limited in energy. So I wonder how that lands for you. So if we look at the critic as just being the messenger, just the first thing that comes up. Because if we were looking at any other critic, say food critic, what are they doing? What are they after? They're after having a better results, right? They're after the chefs learning how to cook better. If you look at, I don't know, book critics, they're after giving you a bit of a summary and understanding that maybe this is somewhere where an author could do better. So it's feedback. Whenever we start looking at constructive criticism, it's feedback. And the difference, that the reason is our inner critics are becoming so much more hurtful, is that they arrive quite often with honesty, which is necessary, but they do not have kindness, or at least enough kindness. But knowing that mechanisms, I wonder if that might be helpful to notice. Whenever critics arrive, they are messaging us, they're telling us that the energy is running low, they're sending us a bit of a signal, where is it that we can improve on, and highlighting to us to bring that awareness and kindness in. Let me know your thoughts. I kept it quite quick because I do not think that I cannot see if anybody is has joined live. But let me know your thoughts. I'll drop those that little summary in the comments, and would love to hear from you and see what do you think in terms of, or maybe there are some other extra critical thoughts that you think might be helpful for yourself and for others to review. So always would love to hear from you, and have a fantastic Thursday afternoon.